welcome to episode 4. We're going to restore the headlights and the hood because they are ugly and faded. Episodes 1 through 3 and all the wonderful things that we got to do, radiator, motor mounts, front main seal, etc. in the description below, so be sure to check those out before you go any further. All right, let's get to it. This headlight here is definitely going to need some cleaning. You can see there's a nice streaky haze right in the front there. Oof. This side's nice and clean, but I might as well give them both a nice cleaning and a good UV treatment. That's the important thing. That is the trick to getting these headlights to staying clear. It's the UV treatment that comes with the Meguiars. And this is it right here. Sander, a buffer, and a protection. The protection is the best. That's what's going to keep it coated for many years to come. Take one last good look at the oxidized mess. We're going to kick it off with the Meguiars 800 grit wet sanding, but you do want to make sure to tape off the surrounding surfaces so you don't damage them. Take the 800 in one direction, and here's what it looks like. It's still a little hazy, a little yellow. Take the 1000 and go in the opposite direction. It's going to be nice and hazy like this. As it dried a little bit more, I could see that there were some heavier particles, so I hit it with 600 grit. Let that dry, then back to 800, working my way to the finer grit 1000. Then take the 1000 and go in the other direction. Nice and clear, and we're getting close to the point where as it dries you can see a little bit more of the oxidation at the bottom, but we're going to buff it and see if any of that will come out. The top half cleared up really nicely, however the bottom was still showing a lot of that oxidized plastic, so we went through and did a second round of the sanding and the buffing. Starting it again with the 600 and hitting those troubled spots, we let that dry, and then going again with 800 using the wet sanding technique, never do it dry. And then 1000 grit, and as 1000 grit finally dried, it looked like this. Put on some of our polishing cream with the kit, take the buffing wheel out, attach the drill, and give it a couple of runs. It looks really nice and clear. You can see some of that shine coming through. Be very careful not to overheat the plastic, because that is a possibility, especially with a wool pad. The final application is the UV clear coat, which has the potential to be really messy because it's runny like water, but it sticks like glue. And I gave it a nice and even application. Once you peel the tape off, you can see the car looks just as good as new, minus the little blemish on the fender. And it takes about 30 minutes to dry. And now the abbreviated version with just the still photos. Here's how it started. First scuff with the 800, second with the 800, 1000, didn't like it, so 600, nice and hazy. Then 800 in the other direction, switch directions and go to 1000 grit, and then 1000 grit in the other direction, nice and clear. But keep going, 1000 grit again, and buff it. Still has oxidation, so we're going to go right back and give it 600 grit again, mostly on the bottom where it's needed, 800 grit, then 1000, polish it once, polish it twice, applied clear coat, and now our final look with the tape removed. Once again, this is where we started, and this was our finished product, and it's such an improvement. The fat just walks away. For the passenger side, it's going to be a lot easier because we already went through all the steps and there's a lot less oxidation here. So we're going to do it right and tape before we start sanding. Doesn't need to be that far out, but as long as you don't get sandpaper on the bumper. We can skip the 600, start right with the 800, dry it, go to 1000, dry it, see what trouble spots are remaining. Looking pretty good there, so we're ready to buff. Apply the cream and buff as many times as you need to get those troubled spots out. And I think I did 3 applications of the buffing on this side. And then apply the clear coat, which again is going to be a very tricky consistency. Now as we move on to the hood, I made the mistake of not letting this headlight dry completely. So there is one little streak where some water got there from the hood. And I'll have to reapply this, which will consist of probably just resanding and reapplying from step 1 again. Not that bad. Okay, people of the world, let's see if we can finally take care of that faded hood. Ooh, now that the headlights look better, we got to make the hood match. That fender, however, I'm going to keep looking for a replacement unit because I don't feel like paying $900 to have that little dent removed and resprayed. You can see the fading is pretty bad on this hood. It's these run marks here are where the ceramic coating was living on it. It's essentially in need of a real good cut and buff, and it might not even take care of what we need it to. So it's really worth the shot. I'll start with a medium cut cleaner, and if that doesn't seem to show any progress, like the new finish on this side did put a little bit of shine in it, especially as I went 2-3 coats. But if the medium cut cleaner doesn't really seem to help, then I will just jump straight into sandpaper wet sanding it at 800 grit or something like that. Maybe I'll do 1,000 first, and just making this up as I go along, but let's see if we can restore that hood at all. First thing you want to do is tape off the area as always, because we're going to be using a high-speed buffer. We don't want to damage the adjacent surfaces. I popped the hood open so you can tuck the tape in nicely. Here are our buffing wheels. Each color is a different coarseness, if you will, and so they each correspond with a certain level of cut. You can have heavy cut, medium cut, fine cut, and polishing. The first one we're going to use is the red medium cut wheel. Now, colors might not correspond universally, so make sure you read the labels. They're all labeled on the backside, which was really convenient for me. Before you do any work, you do want to wash the hood. Second step, using the detailing spray, we're going to take the clay bar and go over the entire surface of the hood. That's going to really bring out any of the debris in the paint and will give us a very blank slate, and we'll know exactly where we need to start. I keep saying we, but it's really just me. I'll know exactly where I need to start with the hood. And now it's looking perfectly ugly. We've stripped it of any wax, any of the ceramic coating that I sprayed on, and any debris from the road, tar, poop, bugs. We're ready to begin with our medium cut. Now I did this in the dark, so you can't really see all of the spots, but boy, oh boy, does this make a mess. You'll see the dust getting more and more prevalent as the clip goes on. But do section by section at a time. Go with medium speed to low speed. You never want to do it dry, so it's really difficult to kind of work with this material because it is very powdery in nature and very abrasive, so it does cut through the hood nicely. You can see it's becoming more and more of a mirror finish as we work our way our second round on each panel, and I think with this medium cut I made a total of 3 passes on the hood. There's other videos out there on restoring black paint. This was me trying to get it done in a hurry because it was already past midnight at this point and I didn't want to make too much noise and get any complaints. Our fine cut cleaner on the blue pad here is going to go around and make sure we get a little bit more of a mirror finish on here. If we stopped at just the medium cut cleaner, it would be sufficient, but it wouldn't be quite a mirror look. You can see I'm using less of the compound as we go around because it's becoming easier to get a final shine through than it was to get a medium cut. We remove the tape and now it's time for wax. I'll take my microfiber cloth and clean all around. The headlights are completely dry, and then apply the turtle wax all around. Take the green wheel and use that to buff off all of the wax. It's my first time using a buffer like this, so I really enjoy the variable speeds on it a lot more than just the polishing ones. Take a nice look around. There's still a lot of troubled areas, and I will go into more detail in just a moment. But you can see it's a great improvement from where we started. I'd say it's about 80%. So it's kind of like the 80-20 rule, where you do 80% of the work for 20% of the time, and the remaining 20% of the work is going to take you 80% of the time. So it's not always worth it. You need to make that call and decide how far you want to go. Well, it's 1 in the morning, and I'm sure my neighbors have been more than thrilled to listen to my rotary tool here just zipping away. And I'd say I got about 80%. Like, there's spots that I couldn't even tell I was missing because the lack of light. So if you look all around it, I don't know if there's a way to do this justice in this kind of light, but there's still lots of burn marks. And of course, pitting from years and years of rock chips. It looks so much worse on the phone than it does in person, but you'll just have to believe me that it's an improvement, you know, considering that these two surfaces are now more or less the same color. Like right here, this whole area, oh, definitely needs to be cut down even more. I need a coarser cutter. By that, I mean, I've only got medium and fine. I need to get something that's more like a rough cut. Anyway, I'm pooped. I got a couple of swirl marks to take care of. Some scratches on the fender from the cable right there. So once I clean all that up, we'll see how it looks in the morning. Although with the headlights improved, everything's looking pretty good. I just hate that that fender has that nice little dent there. So maybe I'll get one of those Band-Aid stickers. Take a nice look at it in the morning where the sun's up and you can see a little more of the detail. In actuality, it does look better in the daytime than it did at night with the camera because the light of the camera can be a little unforgiving. But if you do stand in the right angle, you can see all the imperfections. Slow your roll, Minnie. 11:30 in the morning. The marine layer has not burned off. I'm just so enjoying San Diego. The car's real dusty, and look at that. I got shat on. Wonderful. These bird scooters, they're always pooping on cars. So This is about 1,000 miles later. 3 weeks, I think, have passed. I know that fender ding is just the worst. I mean, putting a Sharpie on it would make it an improvement. I haven't washed the car since I drove to California, but with an even layer of dust, you can see that the hood almost looks, well, even with the rest of the vehicle. There's no way of really spotting any of those imperfections I was showing you in the last clip. I have not yet taken the compound or the rubbing compound and cleaned up the little scuffs that were made here on the fender. Look at that. That's just from the cable on that tool. Well, thanks for making it this far with me. Now let's have a little bit of fun. In the next video, I'll show you a lot of the adventurous San Diego adventure that I had. And if you haven't seen Adventurous LA Adventure 1 and 2, I'll put the links down below for those. But in the meantime, enjoy. It's time for some fun. It's time to drive the car. Because all work and no play would make Dave a dull boy.